Here's what I don't get. Does anybody believe in the golden rule? Don't treat others the way you don't want to be treated. Then why is it that a small percent of the population that constantly whines about being subjected to labeling insist on labeling the majority of the population? I'm talking about labels like cis. The gay rights movement was an amazing success story. I don't remember advocates for equality running around inventing labels for the majority of the population. When the recent Supreme Court decision making marriage legal for all adults, we didn't see the LGBTQ movement creating labels for them and those normies. That would be nice, gay marriages and normie marriages. No, we had inclusive language like calling it marriage equality. What I see is an echo chamber within identity politics that has become insular with a culture and language all their own, much like a religious cult. But it's probably much more than that. We have seen over the decades religious conservatives calling out homosexuals, railing against immoral lifestyles, and wanting to create laws to infringe on others that they are against, but are often the ones who are the loudest and also get caught in their own little lifestyle. This is hypocrisy. Not always the case, but an easy way to spot it is when someone is overly obsessed with specific people or groups. People like Blaque, who are particularly obsessed with dividing us by calling people cisgendered, a label which they have forced upon the majority of the population, who at the same time don't want us to label them as trans women because they are real women. Do unto others, Kat. Kat also appears morbidly fixated with the subject of transsexuality. I don't fault you for that. Everyone is free to do whatever they want to legally do.
To many cis people, the most fascinating trans-related topic is who they're sleeping with, how they did it, what they did with their genitals, and what those genitals look like.
Oh, trust me, this has not been on my mind. I do think of women a lot, the ones in the past and the one I spend my life with. I can say that the thought of trans genitals has not occupied any time on this side. And I can honestly guess that many straight people feel the same. I understand that the topic consumes your life, and why wouldn't it? But don't attempt to create an alternate reality. The majority of people are straight and likely only think of the opposite sex. That's just a guess, but I think I'm right.
Most men don't openly date trans women. In fact, when I was single, I dated a lot of men whom I considered to be quality, who specifically dated me because they could do so without people knowing about their interests. And by then, I was comfortable with that.
So are you saying these quality men were gay and could date a man presenting as a woman so that they would not be discovered to be gay? Meaning it would appear to observers that they were with a woman and not a man. That can only happen if the trans passes for a woman. If you were comfortable with people living a lie, that's fine.
This conflicting view society has of trans women, coupled with a lack of representation of healthy relationships between trans and cis people, and the framing of trans women solely as creatures of sexual deception, leaves cis people with a very twisted view of the reality of trans people's dating lives.
So you're complaining about the framing of trans women solely as being creatures of sexual deception when you just said you were comfortable in relationships based solely on sexual deception. Do you even reflect on what you say before you say it? So who is responsible for this twisted view of the reality of trans people's dating lives?
As I said earlier, trans people are often framed as these repulsive, deceptive, and predatory creatures. Whenever the bathroom debate comes up, one of the first things people say is that they're afraid of men who dress as women going into the restroom to rape women and children. This was the same argument racists had against desegregation.
This is similar logic used by social justice warriors, third-wave feminists, and many trans activists towards anyone who dares to disagree with them. The new mantra is that words are violence, which is dangerous thinking. If someone has differing opinions, you label them as fascist or homophobic or maybe alt-right. You may want to analyze the logic of your cult. Words are violence. Anyone who does not agree with me is some horrible monster, then it only stands to reason that it is okay to use violence against them. Of course, you know that many people on your side are now condoning violence against the mean people. People you decide are the baddies. But that's the point of my argument. It's the same rationale used by those who want to paint trans people as dangerous. Get it?
And the danger there is that we still very much live in a society where, despite what's true, cis people get to determine the narrative for trans people. So despite the lack of evidence that trans women are naturally rapists or sexual predators, if a cis person says it, it's held up as truth that's valid enough to be used as a justification for legally removing trans people from certain spaces and committing violence against them.
Yes, the mirror image of the authoritarian or regressive left is the intolerant right, who do think of some people as inherently having less rights. But here's the rub. In the civilized West, we have laws against violence towards anybody. Some are considered hate crimes while others aren't. But in places with Sharia or Islamic law, such as Saudi Arabia, Iran, and other countries, it is nothing to rape, murder, or mutilate anyone who transgresses their moral code. Yes, there are some bad apples in the West, as with anywhere, but feel fortunate that you live in a part of the world that cannot legally murder you for who you want to be. I'll go further. You can gain a following on public media sites and earn money while you are doing that which would mean certain danger for you in other places. If I was religious, and I'm not, I would say to count your blessings. You live where you do. Appreciate the freedom you have to express yourself and use your prestige and public fame to work towards helping the millions of Muslim women and children who live in fear every day of their lives. Goodbye.